In the middle of the 10th century, the city of London held roughly 10,000 people. If you walked its streets, you walked on dirt, which turned to mud whenever it rained. When the sun went down, the entire city went completely dark. Paris looked much the same. During that exact same decade, 500,000 people lived in Cordoba, located in modern-day southern Spain. They walked on fully paved roads, and if you walked those roads at night, you could see where you were going, because the city maintained kilometers of public oil street lamps. This chart shows the stark intellectual divide of the era. The tiny blip on the left represents the largest Christian monastic library in Western Europe, the Abbey of St. Gall in Switzerland, which held about 100 books. The massive column on the right is the Royal Library of Cordoba. It held between 400,000 and 500,000 volumes. This extreme concentration of wealth and knowledge was the work of Abd al-Rahman III. In the year 929 CE, he declared Cordoba an independent Umayyad caliphate, completely separate from the Abbasid rulers in Baghdad. He backed up that claim by constructing Madinat al-Zahra, a sprawling palace city that required 10,000 workers a day just to build. Yet the true achievement of this empire was how it spent its resources. The rulers of Cordoba engineered a civic machine designed specifically to prioritize public health and universal access to knowledge. For decades, history books have characterized this period as a dark age of widespread stagnation. The existence of a metropolis with paved streets, running water, and massive archives operating right on the Iberian Peninsula proves that highly advanced civilization never left Europe. That civic engineering started with the physical well-being of the population. A sophisticated water supply system brought clean water directly into wealthy homes, public fountains, and 300 separate public baths. The city even funded hospitals that included dedicated wards for psychiatric care. When a state provides that level of baseline medical infrastructure, it creates an environment where exceptional individuals can thrive. That is exactly what happened with Abu al-Qasim al-Zahrawi, a man who would become known as the father of modern surgery. This manuscript shows al-Zahrawi's masterwork, the Al-Tasrif. He provided the first systematic visual descriptions of surgical tools, mapping out precise bone saws and pointed probes requiring advanced metallurgy. European operating theaters relied on these specific concepts for the next 500 years. Al-Zahrawi's brilliance was his own, but his ability to document and distribute his surgical methods relied entirely on a city that treated public health and scientific research as essential state functions. This commitment extended directly to public education. Caliph Al-Hakam II wanted to increase mass literacy, so he used state funds to establish 27 free schools meant for the general public, rather than restricting education to the royal elite. At the very top of this system was the Royal Library, managed by a woman named Lubla of Cordoba. She was an expert mathematician and one of the caliph's chief scribes, tasked with organizing and maintaining an archive of 500,000 texts. This map shows Cordoba acting as a massive magnet for global knowledge. Agents traveled to Baghdad, Constantinople, and North Africa to acquire texts, shipping them back to Spain. The catalog to index this collection ran to 44 volumes. This massive intellectual engine functioned through a system known as convivencia, or coexistence. Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived together under a legal structure that, while unequal in its tax burdens, allowed for highly collaborative intellectual exchange. You can see this integration in the upper echelons of the government. The caliph's chief diplomat was Hasdai ibn Shabrut, a Jewish scholar who actively negotiated with Christian kings on behalf of the Islamic State. This diplomatic prestige crossed strict religious borders. When Cordoba was expanding its great mosque, the caliph asked for assistance, and the Christian Byzantine emperor responded by sending expert craftsmen and 300 kilograms of gold mosaic tiles to decorate the Islamic prayer niche. Military might could build walls, but Cordoba's true advantage was its capacity to absorb, synthesize, and fiercely protect human knowledge, regardless of what religion or geographic region it came from. That protection did not last. Following the death of Al-Hakam II, real power fell to a political operator named Al-Mansur. To appease religious conservatives and secure his own authority, he deliberately burned the philosophical and scientific wings of the Royal Library. Once the intellectual core was compromised, the political structure rapidly collapsed. By the year 1031, the unified caliphate had splintered into small, fractured kingdoms called taifas. Cordoba itself was eventually conquered by Christian forces in 1236, leaving behind little more than the stone arches of its great mosque. The physical libraries of Cordoba were largely destroyed, but the knowledge they contained physically migrated north, taking root in fortified translation hubs like the city of Toledo. In the 12th century, Christian scholars arriving in these cities found the surviving Arabic and Hebrew manuscripts. They sat down alongside local translators and began systematically converting this massive archive of Islamic knowledge into Latin. This brass astrolabe represents the immense scientific cargo that began flowing into European universities. Those Latin translations included advanced mathematical treatises, al-Zarawi's surgical encyclopedia, and Ibn Rushd's precise commentaries on Aristotle. The European Renaissance is often taught as a spontaneous rebirth of classical learning, but scholars in Paris and Oxford were directly reading the intellectual infrastructure built, refined, and exported by Al-Andalus. The city once known as the Ornament of the world ultimately shattered, but its legacy, the medical instruments used in modern hospitals, the navigational math, and the preservation of ancient philosophy, kept burning long after the city itself was gone.